I went into one of the quirkiest, largest antique stores I've ever been in search of the perfect paintings to customize for Halloween. I paint ghosts, pumpkins, make customized frames, cut a painting in half, all to give new life to these old paintings. And I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. We're going to go and do one of my favorite things, antiquing. And I got this really wicked place in town that you'll have to see. So we set out to this massive antique store called Sanford & Sons. It's about 3.5 levels tall with a nauseating amount of individual antique booths full of anything you can imagine, including this one booth that's loaded with just antique frames, my absolute guilty pleasure. And this place is literally packed to the gills with little treasures hidden everywhere, so you have to be prepared to go digging for what you want. Because this is an antique store, some of the old beautiful paintings I was interested in are priced as antiques. So I'm trying to do my best to find an old cheap gem in here that I can bring back and give some new life. Now, after our, let's call it experience at Sanford & Sons, we had to do a quick visit to Value Village to see what hidden gems were there. Oh God. Embarrassing. Alright, so we're back. I wish I would have filmed more there, but honestly there was so much stuff going on, it was really hard to concentrate. But I ended up coming home with 2 paintings. I ended up coming home with this one. This, I believe, is just a print. It has some fake texture on there, but I really like this image, and I think I'm going to be able to do something really cool with it. I think I paid 20 bucks for this guy, so not too bad. This other one here I got at Value Village. They charged me 35 bucks for it. This one is a real painting. I think it's a real oil painting. You could tell by some of the cracking and stuff like that. But let's take both of these out of their frame and see the whole image that we're dealing with and see what we can come up with. So this first one, kind of interesting. It is what I thought it was. It is definitely a print. It's a print on like cardboard. I looked this up, and this is something that was really common back in like the 70s when they were doing like mass reproductions. Now, there's a couple things that makes this really interesting. You can see that where the frame used to cover, it's a different color underneath, and I don't think that was on purpose. I have a feeling that this was actually a different color when it was initially made. What I think happened is this just got baked by the sun and all the pigment kind of came out. Like, I could be totally wrong. This could be the way it's designed, but the reason why I'm thinking that is that I can't find this anywhere. The only thing I've found about this is there's a small text on the bottom that calls this the West Bank, and it's done by somebody by the name Wago. I put it in the chat GPT. They can't find anything. I did a reverse image search on this on Google and it couldn't find anything either. So kind of interesting. Now, to be honest with you, I don't love this composition. I think that this reflection here is really distracting. And if you like this composition right now, you might want to look away. Regardless of if this was a print or not, this still feels somewhat sacrilegious to destroy an old piece of art. So please let me know down in the comments if this next scene causes you any pain. So I'm sure this probably hurts some of you. But believe me, this is a much better composition to be working with. What's next is we need to prep this surface so it can accept some paint. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some matte medium on there, and that's gonna create a nice tooth for my oil paint to grab onto. So let's go ahead and get some of this matte medium on there. I was quite uncertain as to how to prep this print to accept oil paint, but I feel I made the right decision. However, looking back at it now, if I were to do this again, I would have done my sketch first and then applied the matte medium. This way I could have avoided all this excess overpaint.
I did a really simple palette prep for this painting. All I really needed to do was match this bluish gray value scale as closely as I could. I really hope someone in the comments can shed some light on this piece or the artist. It's a shame I couldn't find any information. I've got a title, an artist name, but no records, no story, nothing to go on. It kind of hurts to think that someone put all this effort into creating it, making prints, and now it's all but forgotten. But in a way, that makes this the perfect haunted painting. We could imagine that this is a painting of a house that's been abandoned for years. On paper, it has an owner, there's a name in the records, but no face, no stories, no proof that anyone ever actually lived there. It's almost as if the house itself belonged to a ghost. Now, as simple as this little ghost is, I think it's the smallest painting I've ever done. I believe the head of this ghost is about the size of a dime, if not smaller. And truthfully, this is way harder than I imagined. In my head, I thought I could blast through this little ghost in no time, but truthfully, it took me 2 sittings to really dial in this little guy. I know it looks simple edited down, but there's something about those eyes I had to keep reworking with my tiniest brush. And with the painting done, it's time to create a custom frame. When I decided to put this painting through the table saw, I knew I was going to have to make a custom frame. I'm sure there's some real technical method or whatever to picking the right frame for a painting. But for me, I just go by feeling. Seeing as this painting was so small and thin, I wanted to do anything I could to make it seem bigger. And this chunky old wooden frame was perfect. I simply measured and cut the old frame down to size, glued and stapled it together, and gave it a nice matte black paint job to match the Halloween theme. Once it was all dry, I mounted the picture, and just like that, we have our very first painting done.
I'm super happy with how this one turned out. I think this frame was just perfect for this piece. It took that little piece of cardboard and added a ton of depth to it and brought this painting back to life. But we got a whole nother painting to tackle, so let's go ahead and start that other one. So this second one is an original painting. There's some texture on here that you can clearly tell is done by hand. And what really gives it away is the border here. You can tell along the border that they did some over painting. I actually think that how they painted this originally is they must have had the canvas flat, painted their scene, and then trimmed it down to size. At the moment, I don't know anything about this piece yet. Once I get some research, I'll definitely fill you in with that. There are a couple things I wanted to note. Number one, there's a lot of sag to here. And unfortunately on the back, it is a non-keyable stretcher bar. So that's a little bit unfortunate. So I'm gonna have to introduce some moisture into the back here to retighten this canvas. This one's a bit more interesting because it's quite dirty on the surface. I definitely wanna get it clean so that I can have a clean surface to paint on so the paint adheres to it. We got a little bit of a plan here. Let's go ahead and give this like a nice little cleanup and then we're gonna start prepping the surface.
Quick tip, misting some water on the back of a canvas will retighten it. However, sometimes it comes with some side effects.
Oh man. I know you can't smell this through the phone, but reintroducing some moisture into that, it's like going right back into that antique shop. It's just like this musty old smell. Oof. Doesn't smell good, I'll tell you that much.
After some light cleaning, I was ready to start prepping the surface to accept some oil paint with some of the matte medium I used on the previous print. You really only need about 2 thin coats of this stuff, and it will give enough tooth to grab the oil paint and help it adhere for a long time to come. For my palette prep, I used the same bluish hue I had earlier, spoiler alert, and introduced some warm yellows, oranges, and browns to match the hue of this painting. If you've seen my videos before, you will know that I start my paintings with a somewhat strict approach. I do a really intricate palette prep. I work back to front and start with the hardest thing first, along with a number of other technical approaches and techniques. And as you can see, I'm breaking these rules right away. And simply, it's because I don't have to follow them. There's minimal to no overlapping, so the back to front rule doesn't really apply. All these additions are really simple, so I can really just paint whatever I want. And the majority of the painting is completed. The hard work is done. I'm sort of just putting the icing on the cake. Why I'm bringing this up is because it's just such a relaxing and refreshing way of painting. No pressure to follow any rules, just freedom to create. I really recommend giving this a try. It's a great way to loosen up and sort of just enjoy the process. As I mentioned earlier, if I found out anything about this artist or painting, this is where I planned on talking about it in the video. But strangely enough, again, I couldn't find a single thing about this painting or artist. Nothing. It's very reminiscent of a Bob Ross style landscape painting from back in the 80s and early 90s, but that's about it. But again, I'm hit in the face with this sad realization of another lost artist. Someone spent hours on this painting, and now perhaps even decades later, it ends up on a thrift shop wall and somehow in my hands. I wonder who painted it, where it hung. Did they do this for a living, or was this just a hobby? I mean, it clearly meant something to someone. It was framed, and technically speaking, it's a solid landscape painting. But perhaps that's the point of bringing these old paintings back to life. Maybe now I can at least shed some light onto those lost artists of the past. You can see our little ghost friend has returned for another cameo in this painting. Perhaps it's fitting he returns for another lost artist. But regardless, he is the most technical part of the painting, that being the draped fabric. I remember early on in my art career struggling so much with painting any sort of clothing or fabric. So I spent many hours studying how different fabric sits on a person, or how drapes lay, or even how your bed sheets look. It's one of those things that seemed so hard many years ago, but now they're just second nature, and I actually enjoy painting them with these long brushstrokes. A simple trick I can give you for fabric is to work from dark to light. Doing this allows me to be somewhat inaccurate with my shadows. But as I start to develop the painting more and more, I can refine the shape by progressively adding lighter and lighter shades. Now, it does help a lot to work with oil paint because they stay mixable for so long. I can create these really nice transitions between the light and the shadow. But this one trick, working dark to light, has really helped me develop my fabric and my painting to a place where I'm just quite comfortable with it. And now with these final details done, we need to give this painting's frame the same treatment of that matte black paint to really make it fit the mood. And after remounting this picture into its frame, I can finally show you the final sexy glamour shots.
And there you have it. These two paintings have been brought back from the dead, rotting on their shelves to be given some new life. I definitely don't think that that's what the artists of these originally had in mind, but I think these turned out fantastic. This was a fun little project to do. Super easy to do. Any of you can do this at home. You know, just adding the cat and the couple pumpkins, like that one completely changed the way this image looks. I want to know from you guys, which one is your favorite? Did you prefer the bigger one or the small one that I completely hacked up with a saw? Let me know down in the comments which one you like the most. If you enjoyed this idea, let me know. I would like to do more of these in the future. Maybe give me some ideas down in the comments of some stuff you'd like to see, but I think I'll definitely be revisiting this concept probably sometime really soon. But as always, I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a happy Halloween.